What I loved most about the performance was he did not waste the ball. My man of the match. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NUFC360 podcast. With me this week is Ryan, Max, and Stephen. Boys, we did a thing. We played well. We played well. My happiest result we've had. It wasn't even a win, and I'm happy. I'm a happy man. The 1-1 draw against Man City. It's a return to form from most of the players in there, and a few clicking into gear. We're going to get into today. But yeah, Max, what's your initial feelings of the result? All the way from Sweden.
I was happy. Like you said, the performance was good for the first time this season. You could really see that intensity back in the team, and we pressed them well, and we gave them a good game. I know they missed some key players, but we also missed some key players. So all in all, I think it was a good performance and good point.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go around and ask questions about individual battles on the pitch. I think we discussed beforehand that Haaland was kept quiet. Ryan, who do you think wins in a fight with Byrne versus Haaland? I think we saw a prelude to that. How do you see that going?
Yeah. I was definitely Dan Byrne. I saw a tweet actually. It was kind of like, this is revenge for Lindisfarne. It was like the Northumbrian versus the Vikings. So, yeah, Dan Byrne, I think, definitely got the better of that matchup and left a little mark on his ankle, didn't he, as well in the process?
Did.
But no, I think he played very well, actually, Dan Byrne. I think, Haaland's notoriously quiet in games, but he always pops up at the right moment. But, he barely had a sniff yesterday, did he? I think he got past the line once, maybe, but I think him and Shaw both did a good job of nullifying him. Dan Byrne kept him quiet, won most of the aerial battles, and I think that was a theme across the pitch, really. I think we were good. We won a lot of the battles that we needed to win. Lewis Hall kept Bernardo Silva pretty quiet, obviously with the help of Joe Linton, but there was positive signs all around the pitch yesterday, in terms of that application, the attitude, and that extra, 10% of intensity that we've maybe been lacking at times this season for me.
Yeah, it seems like a smarter way to approach the game. And yeah, we can come on to Hall because I am his number one critic. I, questioned if he even was a footballer at some stage this season. But I think, to be fair, in my criticism, Bernardo Silva, though a world-class player, I think he's a good matchup for Hall because physically very, very similar in that he hasn't got the pace. He's a very technical player, but the system put into place, even when they had Savio on him, I thought Hall played outstanding. Stephen, do you think Joe Linton's role had changed that made a big difference?
Yeah, I think Joe Linton's sort of resumed the role that he sort of played a lot of the last two seasons. That of when Dan Byrne was playing at left back, he would drop in a lot when Gordon was high up the pitch. And we saw, if you look at their average positions, we played with a back three of Cher, Byrne, and Hall for most of the game. And Joe Linton's position, on average, throughout the game yesterday, was just in front of Byrne and Hall. He was dropping in a lot more than he has done so far this season. Did a lot of the work when they had runners in the half space between Byrne and Hall. I think it worked brilliantly. You look at some of the numbers. Joe Linton was our most defensively active player in the game, and I think it showed on the pitch as well.
Yeah, one thing I'd say about Hall is what I loved most about the performance was he did not waste the ball hardly ever. Every time he got the ball, it looked like he was running into trouble. He'd either find the right pass or he'd cut inside, shield the ball, find the right pass again. I thought he was my man of the match. We can come on to that in a moment. Obviously, the first goal that went in, it's the sort of goal Man City score against us. They, chink inside, score through the legs. I don't think they can blame anyone for that goal in particular, but the penalties, the big bone of contention. I think some people said 3 penalties. I think they're insane. But the first penalty, Gordon clean through on goal, skips past the goalkeeper. There's contact, goes down. Was it a penalty for you, Ryan?
I think at first, initially, when I saw it in real time, it looked a stonewall penalty, didn't it? And I think there's arguments for and against it. I think he's obviously clever in what he's doing. He knows the keeper's coming out. He knows where to put his foot. He knows he can go down as soon as he feels the contact.
Yep.
I think it's one of those that can backfire, though, isn't it? Especially when you're playing a team like Man City. Sometimes they do get a few decisions that go their way. And if you do try and round the keeper when you're 1-on-1 and you don't get the penalty, then you look a bit of an idiot, don't you? So, it all worked out. I think in hindsight, the second one was a lot more of a penalty on Joe Linton. That was an absolute stonewall penalty, in my opinion. And I can see why I guess it was controversial. But I think given the way the game's going at the minute, I probably still would have given it as a penalty. Yeah, might be Ben Newcastle bias coming through there, but I don't know.
I absolutely agree. Although I saw some dissenting shakes of a head over there, Stephen. You didn't think that you thought the challenge on Joe Linton, where the ball wasn't won and he went to ground and there was no contact on the ball whatsoever, wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, correct. I don't think
the class and show you're working.
I mean, I don't think the penalty that Gordon won was a penalty either. But I think Joe Linton went down too easy in the second one. I don't think there was enough contact to make a penalty for me, considering we saw just as much contact not get called by the ref throughout the game anyway. Most of the time, I do think there was a little bit of a bias towards Man City by the ref in the game. It might not. I don't know how well it came through on the TV, but I was in the ground yesterday. And the crowd were getting extremely frustrated at the ref throughout because he was very inconsistent with the whistle being blown. I don't think it was a penalty. If I was the ref, I wouldn't have given it. I think Joe Linton goes down too easy. I think he just gets out muscled.
I think the problem was for me there was if it was just shoulder to shoulder and they do the whole I'm gonna fall like a deck of cards, the Almiron trick. Fine. But it's because Kyle Walker went to ground challenging for the ball and made no contact, and that's when
he also clips him. He clips him on the back of the leg. If you actually look at it, slow it down. He does clip him on the back of the leg. So for me, it was a penalty. I see your argument, and I also thought the ref was pretty poor yesterday. But I also think it kind of worked in our favour. I think the ref kind of spurred up the crowd. I think the atmosphere was a bit flat in the first half, and some of the inconsistencies and some of the poor decisions, all of a sudden, it got the crowd going, didn't it? It was almost like, we're starting to get sick of this now. And then it was a bit of a, this team's kind of fed off that, I thought. So I think, it works both ways, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Max, I hear that the Achilles heel in Sweden is a toe. Isak was out and replaced by what seems to be a fired up, wealthier Gordon. Did we miss Isak?
Yeah, of course we do. No, but if you look at the game, we had some really decent balls going into the area there, but it was a hole there. You're missing someone to be there to tap the goals in. And Gordon had a great game, and he did a lot of clever runs, pressed really well. But Isak just brings another level to our game, and you can't deny that.
No, I agree. I think there was, I can't remember who put the ball in, but there was an opportunity where the ball just went trickling across.
Yeah, Trippier had a cross just through the entire goal area. So I don't know. Isak should, if he'd been there, he'd score it.
I think the argument. I think Gordon. He said it in the post-match interview. He's not a natural number 9, so he has to play it his own way, right? So he's not necessarily, and I think one of his weaknesses is therefore he hasn't got that natural instinct perhaps to be on the end of the balls or be anticipating them balls. Because I think even Murphy put a couple of great crosses in yesterday where it's crying out for someone to be on the end of it, and there just wasn't that man in the box. And I think that was a problem in the first half. We just looked a little bit like we were just missing that number 9. I mean, there's arguments for, if Isak played, we might have had a couple more goals. I don't know. And no question in Gordon's work rate and his quality yesterday. I thought he was excellent. I thought it was his best performance of the season. And Isak is obviously a miss, but at the same time, his levels have not quite been there this season, and our press was a little bit better. I think off the ball with Gordon leading the line yesterday.
I think one big key to the press being a lot better, again, in the stadium, Stephen, but if you saw the influence of Tonali, do you think he was a big reason why the system worked a lot better?
Oh, definitely. Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that you saw we were talking after the Fulham game, right? That we didn't see any of the intensity or the physicality that we're used to. And he brought all of it. Like a running theme throughout the game became Tonali running into Jack Grealish. And having a bit of needle with him, which is something that you wouldn't expect Longstaff to do that, because he's not Longstaff. He has his utility, but it's not getting in the face of a guy who's more technical than him and winning the ball off him multiple times. Tonali was excellent. He showed in tight spaces that his ball retention is excellent, which we've really missed. We don't have that when Longstaff starts or when anyone else starts on the right hand side. He is, I think, second to maybe only Bruno in terms of close control and technical ability in midfield. He was important as well in the fact that we were playing a counter-attacking style. He's faster than Longstaff. He's got a much better long ball than he does, and he can play things first time. So it was a match made in heaven having him in the team. He was really, really important at getting the ball down the right-hand side, because it did seem at times that City were trying to keep the ball on their right-hand side and then switch it rapidly over to the left, which is where I think the first goal came from.
Yep.
But yeah, I think Tonali was super important in the game.
Yeah. And I think there was a chance that fell to Longstaff. People can be very critical of Longstaff. Again, I'm critical of anyone and everything. But do you think Tonali scores that right, or is people being a bit harsh on the opportunity that Longstaff had?
There is an argument, yeah, that Tonali might have scored or might have at least hit the target, I guess. But I think Longstaff was fresh on the pitch. I don't think it was that bad a miss. I think it was close enough, right? I mean, it's a tough one to say, really. I mean, you can sit and point out small chances, and I guess over a 90-minute game, there's lots of them, right? I think, I definitely think we deserve to get a point at least, and I think ultimately we were the better side and probably could have had more, actually.
Yeah, yes, but there was an opportunity. I think Kovacic and Gundogan played awful, which was great.
Gundogan had
Gundogan
he was horrific.
How he didn't lob Nick Pope when Nick Pope, the clubbed foot man himself, comes waddling out and passes it. What are you doing? And I thought he was going to get lobbed, and he should have been lobbed. And Gundogan caught in two minds and then passed it back. It's equally bad as what Pope did to give him the ball. He reciprocated, but now you can have it back then, mate. God, my pants full of excrement at that point when he gave the ball away. I was screaming and shouting. But one positive thing we were mentioning the last time we spoke about our best 11, minus having Isak in the team, is that our best 11, Max? At least in the midfield.
Yeah, I'd say so. At least against this sort of opposition. I mean, having Tonali, Bruno, and Joelinton is, I think, our highest technical ceiling midfield. And also the front three did extremely well. I thought, even though Murphy's final ball sometimes is a bit lacking, he always works hard and he does the job, and he had some really good runs during the game, and he covered for Trippier really well against Grealish. So I'd say so, yeah. And Lewis Hall, as you mentioned earlier, was really good, and I've never seen him put that kind of defensive performance in, but also having that technical quality to play it out from the back when someone like Dan Burn lacks that passing ability that Sven Botman might have. It's good to have someone next to him that can do it for him.
Coming towards the end of this review then, Ryan, who are you giving your man of the match to? Because it's a bit of a team performance, but who do you think stood out?
It's a toss-up, really. I think a lot of people I think Tonali's work rate was excellent, and I think that's maybe something that kind of went under the radar. He ran himself into the ground, didn't he? I mean, he was absolutely goosed after 75 minutes. Yeah. I think it has to be Lewis Hall. I think what we were saying, what I liked about the performance I saw yesterday is obviously we can question his defensive ability at times, but technically on the ball, he is a good player. There's no denying that in terms of, he can make a pass in tight spaces. He's got a good left foot. You saw some of the crosses he put in yesterday, a lot better than Trippier's corners, in my opinion. They were kind of in a good area. I think technically he looks a good player, right? I think there's obviously ways he can grow. I think we've got to remember he's only 20 years old. He's got a lot of room to grow as well at the same time. Maybe physically as well, but I thought yesterday was his best game by far in a black and white shirt, actually. So positive signs for him moving forward.
So one vote Hall. Stephen, who are you giving your man of the match to?
I'd have to agree with Ryan. I think that along with it being his best game, obviously it was our best game of the season performance-wise. I think it says something as well that he was playing with so much confidence against the best opposition we've faced. There were times where he was doing things that Bruno would do. Like there was towards the end of the game, towards the end of the match, there was a moment when the ball came to him high and he sort of chipped it high, lobbed it over his man. He was really confident breaking lines of pressure with his passing. He was opening up and sending it down the touchline as well, really, really accurately. And he was really important through all of our build-up. And you can tell that the team really trust him technically as well. Obviously, he didn't have the fastest winger in his face. I think he's the one who made the fewest mistakes in the team as well in the game. I think we started to see some tired legs leading to some errors toward the end, particularly from Joelinton and Bruno. I think Lewis had I think it's probably the best individual performance one of our players has had this season in any of our games. I'd agree. He's the man of the match for me.
And Max, with no Swedish players on the field, who are you picking as your man of the match?
I said on my Twitter that I thought Bruno was my man of the match, and I'm not going to stick with that because he's had some bad performances leading up to this game, and I thought yesterday he was back to his very best. Won a lot of tackles, dribbled a lot of players, some good passes, won a lot of free kicks in the end. So for me, it was Bruno.
Yeah, I think he did so well. It kind of went under the radar in a performance where I feel like everyone had a high 7, low 8 performance. I think there was only a couple that I thought didn't do very well. So yeah, I think Bruno has gone under the radar because when we control the game, it is usually when Bruno plays well. But when Bruno doesn't play well, we really struggle to activate any sort of game plan. So I'd agree with what you've said, but I've slagged him off so much. The poor lad, and I think we've seen the worst of him this season and his biggest and most obvious weaknesses. But I thought Hall was outstanding. As we said, he had to keep the ball against a team that punishes you if you're losing it. There's a few players that kept giving it away cheaply, which I was furious with. I really liked the way he was playing, and I feel like if we're backing him up like that, I think that it could work. It could work, and long may it continue for the whole team. The trouble is now we need to push on. That's now the level. We cannot go back to what we were doing before. So I hope
just to add a quick stat, just in Max's favor. We're talking about Bruno. Bruno actually, I think he attempted the joint most dribbles in the game yesterday, and he's one of a few players in the game who completed all of their dribbles. I think he attempted and completed a match high 4 dribbles from midfield.
Yeah, he kept breaking the lines and carrying the ball quite well, which is
he made that pass for Gordon as well, which I think also, I mean, it was a good run, good pass, and there was definitely positives. I think it's an interesting debate with the midfield, and you're right, everything ticks through Bruno. I think Joe Linton work rate outstanding. His physical presence is so important to us. Yeah. But there is times where technically I do question him as a Premier League centre midfielder. I think it's a balance, and I think at the minute, he deserves to be in the team on the right side of that balance. But there's questions maybe for Willock coming back in there. I actually think Joe Linton's best on the left, and you have that Willock-Joe Linton combination, which served us so well. Because I just do think at times he loses the ball cheaply in some areas. I mean, we've seen it, but I mean, it balances out with the work rate because I mean, he was absolutely everywhere yesterday. He was outstanding off the ball.
Ultimately as well. I mean, we said earlier on in this episode that we had chances that we could have nicked a win in that game. I think ultimately when you look at the performance from individuals and the chances we had more expected goals yesterday than City did. We had was it 1.57 to City's 0.91. We could have, with some better finishing, Longstaff, we could have scored 2 in that game and we'll come out winners against one of the best sides the Premier League has seen. Regardless of how unfit they are, lacking players, if we could have come out yesterday with a win against City, it would have been even more of a miracle than what we said a draw would have been outside of this.
Yeah, completely agree. My only taking Joe Linton now, I think, can Willock be that rock? Because basically Joe Linton just turns into another centre-back with his physical presence. But I completely agree, Ryan. There are times where he lost the ball when he absolutely shouldn't have. It's like Bruno's behind him and he passes it and he just that metre too wide and then City go on the counter. So it is that dilemma that we've got.
He's like the 6 we often think we need, right? He positions himself sometimes as the deepest midfielder.
Yeah.
And it frees Bruno up a bit, but he doesn't have the passing from deep. So ultimately we need someone who's as physical as him long term, but also with the technical ability of Bruno. So we need we need our own Rodri that's fit.
Yeah.
That's £100 million player, that, isn't it?
I mean, 200 million for Rodri,
isn't it?
Yeah,
exactly.
Best Ballon d'Or winner for me. So very quickly, we were meant to play Wimbledon last week. They sabotaged themselves because they wanted to take half our gates, so they moved it to St James's. We've very kindly donated money. There's a 15 grand to get their pitch back and running, which is a lovely touch from the club. And we've got, is it a sellout, I believe?
Yeah.
What we've got, is it Tuesday we're playing?
Yes.
At St James's. So obviously we should be making changes. What changes would you make, Max, for the starting 11?
I'd bring on Emil Kraft, of course, and then I'd have probably Almiron Osula come in for some of the front three, Longstaff also, and Kelly. So basically switch off the team. Maybe keep maybe Bruno and Lewis Hall and Pope, probably Barnes or Gordon.
Yeah, I think we're more at risk of subbing the goalkeeper off, to be honest. I'd like to see our new £20 million goalkeeper start. That'd be nice, or one of the other 7 that we've got. Stephen, anyone you'd want to see in particular start?
We need to see William Osula more.
Yes, we do.
Obviously, 10, 15 million quid is nothing nowadays. And he's obviously a project player. When we did the one time we did see him this season, he looked really, really raw, and looked like he didn't have a head on his shoulders. He didn't pass it the wrong way. I'd like to see. I think we'll probably rest a bunch of players for the Everton game. Because we'll leave 4 days. It's the 5th we go to Everton.
Yeah.
I like Matt. I can see us playing Kraft and Kelly. I'd keep Hall in the team. He didn't have to run too much against City. I think we'll probably start Almiron. I would like to see, like I say, Osula up front and either move Gordon out onto the left or play Barnes again. Barnes didn't have the best game against City, so maybe give him a run out against Wimbledon so we can maybe get a couple goals, hopefully. Keep the confidence high. I don't think we'll see Vlachodimos. Cost 20 million quid apparently, but Dubravka's still on the bench.
Go on, Martin. Go on, Dubs. Best keeper in the club. Ryan, who do you want to see in particular? Are you that bothered? Do you think Gordon should start? Because I'd like to rest him.
We're in a situation, right? I mean, on paper, it's Wimbledon. I believe they're a League Two side. You should be winning. You should be winning. I think they were in League One at one point a couple of years ago and got relegated. But anyway, point aside, it's a game we should be winning comfortably, but it's also a game that has the potential to be, catastrophic, lose type thing. And if we do want to build that momentum, then you could argue maybe a good performance and a good victory is important moving forward. But having said that, I think we do need to rest some players. I think we ultimately need to go to Everton with fresh legs because it's not an easy place to play and you want to see more of the same intensity. So I think kind of similar changes to what the guys have said, really. Almiron, I think, probably will get a few minutes. And then I think maybe Willock and Longstaff come into the midfield.
Yep.
And then, again, across the back four, I would expect to see Emil Kraft, Lloyd Kelly, Livramento. Yeah. And I think
maybe a chance for some of the youngsters to come in as well.
Yeah.
I was going to mention, I don't know if Sanusi could get a run out on the left. He looks really sharp pre-season. Obviously, we've got 2 very
He's looked good in the under-21 games recently as well.
Yeah, so I would love to see him get minutes. If start might be a bit much, but definitely get some time on. I'd drop Gordon entirely and just rest him up.
Given some of the guys and some of the lads in the youth teams have played really well recently, especially in the last game under the new manager, Diarmuid O'Carroll. I think Sanusi's played really well. Alfie Harrison's been excellent so far this season.
Good.
I think Charlie MacArthur, the Scottish centre-back, has been fantastic as well. Jay Turner-Cook scored 2 in the most recent game, so he might get a look.
I think bring them on, a couple of them on when we're maybe, hopefully, a couple of goals up. I think I'd agree with you, resting Gordon, though, Marky, when he's going into a bear pit atmosphere, no doubt, on Saturday. Let's just say he's disliked by the Everton fans, so he's exposed, a doubt again for next Saturday. So we need Gordon at his very best next weekend if we are going to get anything. So rest Gordon up, I think. Maybe give Barnes a run. I think we do need enough quality. You do worry a little bit about Almiron Osula, where's the goals coming from? But maybe Almiron Osula Barnes would be a good front three.
Yeah, I think the result, I do think we get the win. I don't think it'll be a squeaky bum time. I mean, these will be famous last words, but under Eddie Howe, I think these silly results that we might have got back in the day have diminished. And I think that squad depth is a lot better. I think we win 2-3-0 quite comfortably. Does anyone disagree? What's score predictions? Anything other than that? Think we concede?
I think we might concede, but I think we have. I mean, while the results haven't been as embarrassing, we have had some shaky performances in the cups, especially against lower league opposition. So I think we might concede. I think maybe a 2-1 win.
2-1 at home to Wimbledon.
I think these games are always easier at home, right? I mean, going away to Wimbledon, it might have been a completely different thing. Crowd might have been right up for it. And they'll probably bring good numbers. And I think the club, obviously, like you said, Mark, are giving them gate receipt and donated a lot of money, which is a nice touch. I think, being at home will be a bit easier. I see a 2-0 win, to be honest.
Yeah, Max, any different? I mean, if Emil Kraft, is it centre back again? We don't concede. We know this.
He's our best defender. 3-0 to us.
3-0. And Bo is watching, and he's also put 5-0. I mean, back in that, Bo. If it's 5-0, yeah, that'd be lovely.
The last is won today as well. Again, 2-0. Triple promotion incoming. We need to get the field at Kingston Park needs to get laid for the Women's Super League next year. Clearly, beat Portsmouth 2-0 today.
I believe the Newcastle women are a football team. I believe,
but they are. Until yesterday, they were better than our men's team.
Yeah, it's a low bar they've set. But yeah, boys, thank you very much for joining. If you made it this far in the video as well, thank you very much. Like, share, and subscribe. Comment below what your score predictions are for Wimbledon and who you thought the man of the match was against Man City. Gentlemen, we'll be speaking very soon in the week, celebrating hopefully a win in the League Cup. And yeah, take care, everyone.